This is going to sound like so much hate, and I swear it's not. Welcome back to the Warner Brothas Podcast. I'm Kyle, joined as always by my brother Keenan, joined by Tim Gray. Excuse me, we are back from our NFC East and West predictions. Now on to our NFC North and South predictions. Which division do you guys want to start with?
We're going to start with the North, but again, just want to make sure, check out all the other divisions we've talked about. They're going to be segmented. They're going to be segmented out so you can see each division individually, or you just watch the 3 episodes that we have of combined. Either way, watch all the content. It will be there right for you. But let's start with the NFC North, and let's just start with the Detroit Lions.
Detroit football. Tim, you go.
I will begin as usual.
Yep.
I believe the Lions are going to be just a very chalk team. I think they're as good as they were last year. They really didn't lose any positions. They get Ben Johnson back. You know, everybody was worried that he was going to leave and go to the Commanders maybe, whatever it is. He comes back. I love that. I think we could see Jahmyr Gibbs completely take a leap this year and be the one. I think if they switch those roles and now Jahmyr Gibbs is the one, I think that could work wonders for their offense. So all that's basically saying that this team's going to be right where they were last year. I know Dan Campbell on the spot after losing in the championship game, you know, he definitely looked flustered. You know, he said it was so hard to get here this year. It's going to be even harder to get here next year. I think they'll figure it out. I'm not too worried. I have them 12-5 winning their division, number 1 in their division.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to quickly piggyback off of that, Kyle. I completely agree with Timmy. I have them 12-5 winning their division as well. I think that this team is... I also have this team, I can just say it now, the number 1 team in the NFC. Because going back, I had the Rams winning the NFC West and the Eagles, both of them having 11 wins. I think that they're the number 1 team in the NFC. I think this team's just only going to get better with experience and time. They've actually been there now. It's not the new team. They have DJ Reader, obviously Aiden Hutchinson. I think when we talk about these ends, we talk Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, obviously left outside linebacker, but still an end. Micah Parsons, Max Crosby, Aiden Hutchinson needs to be added to that conversation. I think he's going to force his way to make sure we mention him with all of those other guys this season. I got them 12-5 winning the division.
It's crazy to me, the world we live in. Last year, everybody's darling in the NFC was the Lions. And I was expecting that it would be the Packers for everybody this year, which to some degree it is. There's a lot of Packers love, but there's even more love still for the Lions, for them to take not only the leap they did last year, but another leap to being straight up in the Super Bowl, if not winning it this year. It's just crazy to live in a world where, you know, a team I think only had 2 postseason wins prior to last year, and now they got all this love for them. I say all that to say, you guys love them. I got them at 16-1. No, I'm just fucking with y'all. I love them too. I love them as well. This is fucking boring, but I also actually have them at 12-5. And I go through this dialogue in my own head all summer, like leading up to training camp about, you know, what I think these teams are in my head, you know, before we get to preseason. And even up to like last week, I would say I was pretty worried about the Lions as far as their defense goes. I know they got more depth. They got so many toys on offense. And, you know, you guys kind of mentioned in pre-show, it's now the Lions, but, you know, with real expectations now. Like I just mentioned, like people are picking them to win the Super Bowl. I mean, that literally hasn't happened my entire lifetime. Okay.
No.
And you've got a real actual tough division that I think, you know, if we had J.J. McCarthy in here, we would say there's 4 teams that are going to be tough to beat on any given Sunday. And now for sure, at least 3 with the Bears and Packers and Lions. That being said, where it really defaulted for me for the Lions, I've never seen this. There's two things I've never seen in my life when it comes to NFL schedules. That's one, as I've mentioned with the Steelers, having all 6 of their division games like within the last like 8 weeks. That's insane to me. And then the Lions, 14 of their 17 games are in a dome. I've never in my life seen that heavy of a dome schedule. That couldn't be any more favorable for their offense and defense. In fact, I think the only cold weather game they really have is the Chicago Bears in like week 14 or 15. I actually think they get their I think their trip to Green Bay is like in October before it gets really cold. So this team really might not. I mean, they're going to have their challenges. Don't get me wrong, but all their challenges are either in a dome, in a warm weather city, or at home. So everything is lined up for them. Everything is lined up for this team to get back not only to the NFC Championship game, but maybe beyond. And it's just a matter of can they do it. They seem to love Dan Campbell. The league loves Dan Campbell. NFL fans across the world love Dan Campbell. And if I could just go deeper with this Lions team, if the Chiefs were to make it back to the Super Bowl and the Lions were to come out of the NFC, and it was truly like the Lions versus the world in that case, or actually in the Chiefs case, it'd be the Chiefs versus the world because everybody would be on the Lions bandwagon. That would be an insane world to live in, and that very well might be where we're headed. And I don't know, it's just insane. I'm still trying to wrap my head around this, like just this Lions Super Bowl buzz. It's crazy, but it's real and it's here, and I can't wait for it. I can't wait for it. But I'm in lockstep with y'all, 12-5. And I think they take care of the division. That being said, they have any little injuries. This is where I'd be worried for them. Any sort of injuries on that defense, I think it could get a little dicey. But again, that favors still
that or that offensive line.
Right.
The offensive line's one thing they got to stay healthy because when you put a hat on Jared Goff, he's not a quarterback that really does well with pressure.
For sure.
The thing about the Detroit Lions is they have one of the best lines we've seen.
That's the thing. They at least could weather the storm if they lost one of their guys on the offensive.
Yeah, if you lose one, you can weather the storm. You just don't. You don't want to lose too many on the line, of course, and obviously injuries happen in the NFL.
I'd be worried specifically about their secondary if they got injuries, but.
Oh yeah. So let's hop right into the Packers. We are all 12-5. Lions seem to be the best team in the division, unless someone has someone at 13-4 or 12-5. But Packers.
I believe that the Packers this year will be a little bit better than they were last year. Last year they were 9-8, just barely made it into the playoffs. But then they really shocked the world in the playoffs. They were a very formidable opponent, taking out the Cowboys, and then really going right to the line with the 49ers. So I think this offense started to click right at the end of the season there, and I think they're going to roll with that. I think LaFleur is a great coach, so I got them at 10-7, just a little bit better. I do have them as the 6th seed, making it right into the playoffs.
So I'm going to quickly just bounce off of that because I have the exact same thing as Timmy. They are my 6th seed. They are making the playoffs at 10-7. I think that this Packers team is going to be a lot like last year, as you saw. Jordan Love's only going to start to ascend even more. You get a full season of Christian Watson healthy. I think you're going to be able to see some of the big plays we saw with him a couple years back when Aaron Rodgers was there, especially towards the back half of the season. They've got a lot of weapons. They may not have big names, but they've him, Jaden Reed, Wicks. They got a lot of guys who can produce. And then defensively, hopefully they can get a full season out of Jair Alexander, because if they can do that, that's a top 7 cornerback in the league without any argument there. And then Rashawn Gary, he has been playing very well. Kenny Clark, one of the best defensive tackles. Preston Smith. So they've got all the pieces to be a very good team, and I think that's what they're going to be again, 10-7, 6th seed in the playoffs. I have them exactly the same as Timmy.
Sure. I mean, so this team, we know they got rid of Joe Barry, and we would assume that this defense just takes a step up. And if that were to happen, I believe they have.
Austin's been calling for his job for 3 years.
For sure, yeah. I think most Packers fans have not been happy.
Been calling for his job every week
with Joey B. But this team, I mean, look, they're young. They seem to be pretty loaded on offense and should be better on defense. They've got a favorable schedule when it comes to at least like their home games. Like if they got tough teams, it's at home. Their road games aren't super tough. They got a Seattle game in there that's towards the end of the year. That is tough, but overall, I kind of like their schedule. I think, and honestly, that this game Friday night, and we're going to talk about it, especially when we do our week 1 picks. But Friday night in Brazil is by default the weirdest game of the entire year. Like, absolutely, aside from the Christmas Day games. But to start your game in South America, and a critical matchup, like that's a matchup we all love. That's a great week 1 game, Eagles, fucking Packers. But
that could be a playoff implication when, like, say the Cowboys win the division, and obviously that could be a wild card spot. Like that
immediately,
easy.
Immediately. That's what's crazy about it. So honestly, whether they win or lose, their next 4 or 5 games after that are pretty favorable. This could be a team that's 5-1 immediately. Then their schedule heats up a little bit. But again, the way their schedule is placed, Keenan, we got the Lions at 12-5. I could see a world where they are also 12-5. I actually have them. I haven't got my final pick yet. It'll either be 11-6 or 12-5. Either way, I'll have the Lions getting the edge over them for the division. But I think the Packers are right there. I think they're going to be right on their heels. And if the Lions, we're going to continue talking about this division, honestly, but I just mentioned it. With the Lions and their defensive depth, if they were to lose anybody at all, anybody of importance on defense at all, not only are the Packers going to be right there, the Bears very well might be right there as well. And again, that's really the toughest game on the schedule that's late in the year is that at Bears for the Lions. Now we're talking about the Packers here, but everyone else is either in a dome or just a warm weather game. So everything's favorable for them. But the Packers, just for them getting the wild card last year, they got so many easy games spread out in between their tough games. They should be able to load up to 8 wins easy, just to default there. Their over-under is at 8.5, which I don't understand. I think this is a automatic 10-win team. You guys each got them at 10-7. I think that's their floor to me. I wouldn't be surprised if this team got to 13 wins. I really wouldn't. I view this team the same way as I did the Eagles 2 years ago with Jalen Hurts and all the talent they had on offense mixed with their cake schedule. I think this has remnants of that. So, no, I would not be surprised to see this be 11, 12, or 13-win team. I'll stick them at 11 with Detroit winning. Actually, I'll stick them at 12, each of them at 12, with Detroit maybe getting the nod. We'll see once we do our playoff predictions pod next episode.
All right. Now we jump into the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears, Timmy, it's on you.
You're on mute. There you go.
My bad. Had my mute on. I think this team is going to be very similar to the Houston Texans of this year. A lot of expectations for this team. They're loaded on offense. They've got a lot of skill position players. The line is still kind of weary. Not sure if that's going to be a flaw for them. But everybody's expecting Caleb Williams to be the dude. Very well could be the dude. He could just be an average quarterback and break all of the Bears' quarterback records. So I think he will probably be pretty good, but I could totally see the first month just not going how people think it is. I have them at 7-10, so I think I have them a little bit worse than they were last year. I think they won, 8 games last year?
I think they were 7-10 exactly last year.
Okay, 7-10. So I got them staying the same. I just think it's similar to the Texans where there's a lot of mouths to feed, and that can definitely cause issues. So I don't want to put them as good as the Packers until we see it.
So I have the inverse of what you have. I have them at 10-7. They are my 7th seed in the playoffs. I think that this team, I mean, as you guys have said with multiple other teams, are like how Kyle said exactly with the Jets. The Jets have went 7-10 with Zach Wilson. Justin Fields is not Zach Wilson, but Tyson Badgett's not great. And Tyson Badgett was quarterbacking multiple games. They had their quarterback situation was in flux as well. You add Rome Odunze, who I think is going to be one of these top flight receivers. He's not going to be exactly Malik Neighbors and Marvin Harrison year one, but I think he's going to be really good. You add a sure-handed guy in Keenan Allen. You have Cole Kmet there already, who has had a good rapport with whatever quarterback's there, good security blanket. Then you have DJ Moore as well. I like what you've added defensively. You have multiple defensive pieces that you've put together. Montrezl Sweat, obviously, you got him last year. You've got Kevin Byard there, so I like what this team is. Jalen Johnson at corner as well. So I have them 10-7. I have them my 7th seed in the playoffs, and I have them competing ish for the division. But I do think the Lions are the class of the division to me.
Yeah, so I can't get all the way to 10 wins with this team. I agree with what you said. Them going from Fields and Tyson Bagent last year to now Caleb Williams. Thing is with them, their schedule's like loaded with 50-50 games. And I think you have to take that exactly at 50-50 just because Caleb's a rookie quarterback. Don't get me wrong. We see all the talent. We see all the plays you can't really account for on the scouting report, like plays he just makes that are just God-given. Much like Mahomes, much like Aaron Rodgers, that's his comparisons. But Keenan, you mentioned in pre-show, we were talking about Andrew Luck and how his rookie season, I think you mentioned it was 23-19 touchdowns to picks.
Mm-hmm.
And if you would have asked me, like if you would have just asked me, like what, I would have said something like maybe 27 touchdowns, right? And maybe 19 interceptions sounds about right because Luck did throw a lot more picks than what it would seem for his profile. And I say that to say Caleb Williams, we know him to be a gunslinger. I think he's going to throw more picks, than an Andrew Luck or in that 19 range. You know what I mean? He's going to have more risks, right? So these 50-50 games, even if they're in them, I think you're going to have some games where Caleb throws, 2 or 3 picks. Some of these games, it's not going to matter. Maybe he does play well. But I factored that into my wins total for them. I actually got them at 8-9. I do think they're going to be a fringe playoff team. And again, I think if the Lions at all suffer any major injuries, this Bears team is going to be right there to pick up on that. I cannot get all the way to 10-7 just because that schedule is tough for a rookie quarterback. The rookie wall is real. And, if he's one of the top prospects we've seen since Andrew Luck and since Trevor Lawrence, if we're going to throw those two in there, we want to throw Burrow in there too. Every one of them face their challenges, and he's immediately going to have 2 playoff teams that are going to be tough to face in division. The Vikings defense is going to be tough to face in division, and he's got games like the Colts, Cardinals, Niners. You know what I mean? They got tough games all around that schedule that are going to be 50-50. That again, I think some of these games are going to be, the Caleb Williams and the Bears come out on top. Actually, I think they even got the Texans week 2. But I think there's some games where not effectively he loses it for him, but, he might make it tough on himself with 2 or 3 interceptions. So they're really a swing. They're like the definition of a swing team for me because he could absolutely knock it out of the park, and this league could be easy for him immediately. And then, they could be right there with the Packers or the Lions for the division. I don't necessarily see that, though, just yet. So 8-9, could see it being 7-10 or 9-8, but I got them right at 8-9.
Okay. And to the least controversial team in this division, the Minnesota Vikings.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the number 1 pick holding Minnesota Vikings. I think Sam Darnold is going to put this team in the garbage can. This team not going to win games. I have them all the way down at 3-14.
Yikes.
I am not high on this team. Apart from Justin Jefferson, I don't think I like a single piece of this team. They lost Danielle Hunter. Their starting QB that would have been their starter gets hurt. Jordan Addison might get suspended. Hawkinson's hurt for the first 2 months. They have a left tackle and they have a quarterback on the bench recovering from a meniscus tear. I think it could be a very bright future for this team if they trade the number 1 pick, get a haul because they don't need the quarterback. It could be great, but I don't think this is their year by any means. And I don't necessarily think that O'Connell's done here after this year. I think they understand that it's not their year. So that's my take. Not very high on them. Actually, I'm the lowest on them than any other team. So
quite literally low.
I'm not the lowest on them, but they're within the top 4. They're going to be competing for the top pick. I have them at 4-13. I think that, one, you're in a division where the other 3 teams are at least good. I know I feel a little bit higher on the Bears than you two, but you guys at least would say the Bears are a decent to good team. And obviously the Packers and Lions just go up from there. So that's already tough enough as it is. You don't have a starting quarterback. You have Sam Darnold. You have Justin Jefferson, and that is about that. Shout out to Aaron Jones. We'll see what you can do. Your line's good, but I mean, you don't have much to do with it. I think Jefferson could have still a very solid year because I think Sam was just going to chuck the ball to him. But yeah, team 4-13. I don't have much else to really talk about with this team.
Yeah, I have them at 5-12, and it was kind of hard to get to 5 wins for them, honestly. Tim, I understand your sentiments, but I also think this is one of the good bad teams. Like, I think they're going to be in a lot of games here from their defense, from the pieces that they have on offense, which, as you mentioned, they very well might be without. Hawkinson is going to miss a lot of time. Addison, we don't know how much time he's going to miss, but you still got Justin Jefferson there. You'll have Aaron Jones. And Darnold, even though Darnold is an ass quarterback, he still has a lot of talent. And this is the best situation he's been in, not counting last year being the backup for the Niners. So if anything at all was going to pop for him, it would be this year. I would actually probably pick them for more wins, probably in the 7 range if they weren't in the NFC North. Their division's just going to be tough. I don't see them winning hardly any games, maybe stealing one against the Bears or something like that throughout the year. But their schedule is just entirely too tough. I would give them the 50-50 nod over, I think like they play the Titans. I would give them the nod over that bad team if we were going to say that. So I give the Vikings the nod there, but it's still very hard to get anywhere past 5 wins for them. We don't really have to spend too much time on them. Am kind of interested to see the Sam Darnold experiment in full, though, like a full 17 games, which he won't make it. He'll get injured at some point, but
I was going to say, if they're playing him for 17 games, they're going for like the interception record or something.
You're at least getting 1 pick a game for sure. You could book him for at least 17 picks.
And as we've been pretty much doing with all of these divisions, one thing that I'm looking forward to the most here actually is Jared Goff. And the reason being is I think that you have 5 quarterbacks that are the cream of the crop 5, and that is no order. Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, Lamar, and for me, it's Matt Stafford as well. Obviously, Matt Stafford's getting older, but I think those 5 are the best. And then from there, you have your quarterbacks. There's no reason. And then obviously, CJ Stroud and Jordan Love are your young guys who are ready to ascend. There's no reason why Jared Goff can't continue to remain in that top 8 conversation, top 7-ish even conversation, depending on what these young guys do in year 2. Or if Matt Stafford slips because he's a little older. So I think Jared Goff, it's interesting to see how he's going to play in what I believe in big playoff games, whether it's whatever round he's in, big playoff games, every playoff game you're in. So it's going to be how can you compete there? You've been to a Super Bowl once. Can you get this Lions team who is poised with everything you could ever ask for back to a Super Bowl? Or to a Super Bowl, get yourself back to a Super Bowl.
Sure. It would be easy to say the Lions because I think we're all ready to see that experiment, as well as Caleb Williams, another highly touted rookie at QB, immediately probably the best or second best QB the Bears have ever had, along with Jay Cutler.
He's about to have the best season in Bears history, and it's going to be like 4,000 yards, like 26 touchdowns, like whatever.
Honestly,
so it's going to be like, okay, well, that's the season.
I would say overall, just the matchups between the top 3, whether it's Bears, Lions, Bears, Packers, Packers, Lions, all that. I'm ready for those matchups. So that's what I'm really going to be excited to watch. I think a lot of them fall between October, November, and December. So we're going to get some good cold weather games. Those are storied rivalries anyway. So the fact that there's real stakes behind all 3 teams with real expectations, it's going to be great.
I think for me, I'm looking at Josh Jacobs. I want to see him be the Raiders Josh Jacobs that we knew as like the rushing leader. And I think he could totally do it. The problem before in all offseason was that LaFleur has always deployed at least 2 backs. A.J. Dillon was a factor in Green Bay for like most of Aaron Jones's success. A.J. Dillon's now on the IR. He's got that neck issue. He's done for the whole season. Marshawn Lloyd, who's their backup that they just drafted, also starting the year potentially on IR. If he has to be the guy because he's the only guy, they give him 20 touches a game. I don't see a reason why he can't repeat as a rushing leader like he did 2 years ago. And I'm just ready to see it. I did see he had come out and said that he turned down more money from the Giants. They offered him a better deal. I believe his deal right now is 4 years, $48 million. So it doesn't necessarily average out to $12 million a year because they can cut him after I think 1 year and then they don't have to pay him like anything. But if they offered him more money, why didn't the Giants just offer that to Saquon? Because that's crazy to me. Like if they're ready to offer, $15 million for Josh Jacobs, why weren't you ready to do that for Saquon? That's crazy. But sorry, side tangent on that. I was just thinking about that from earlier. Josh Jacobs is my guy that I'm looking forward to this year.
Very interesting. And yeah, no, that is quite why aren't we giving, even if it's a couple million more, why don't we just give it to Saquon regardless? But one quick thing I want to say too is we saw obviously DeAndre Hopkins for many years with terrible quarterback play still put up great numbers. I'm interested to see what Justin Jefferson does a full year of no quarterback play, of no great quarterback play. Because if he's that good, he'll still put up 1,200 yards at least.
I'm not too worried about Jefferson.
Neither am I. I'm just interested.
Yeah, I think, like exactly what you said, D-Hop. Hell, Calvin Johnson was on a team that went 0-17.
Hey, Garrett Wilson last year even got 1,000.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not too worried about Jefferson. He is still talented. He's still the number one talent-wise in the NFL for wide receiver. I think he's going to get his.
In the game.
I just don't see them winning games because of Jefferson.
Oh, no.
Just to add on to what Tim said with Josh Jacobs, I'm interested. It seems like we're all just pegging in that Jordan Love is just going to be like on his way to an elite quarterback. But, I mean, same thing we kind of said about Jared Goff. Like, he's got real expectations. Packers got real expectations, too. And I'm interested to see how he carries that lineage from Favre to Rodgers to Jordan Love. So far, it's gone exactly how any Packers fan could plan a 30-year plan. Like, it couldn't have gone any more perfectly between those three.
They got the Steelers head coach where they just like one guy to one guy to one guy. They just don't do anything. There's no in between. It's just one guy who's going to be really good for us.
And, it kind of got rocky with Aaron Rodgers towards the end, much like how it got rocky with Brett Favre towards the end. So last year it was very much a honeymoon phase. Now they loaded up. They got real talent around them, and they've got real expectations. Can Jordan Love hold up his end of the deal? So I'm very interested to see that. Follow-up question, Keenan, which I very well could have asked you in your quarterback tier rankings. You did say Jordan Love and C.J. Stroud would be your young guys on the come-up. Why don't you have Justin Herbert in that class? Or Trevor Lawrence?
Because Trevor Lawrence I don't have there because I think that Trevor Lawrence hasn't really shown enough to. I mean, I already think C.J. Stroud and Jordan Love have won playoff games as Trevor Lawrence. I don't want to be. I don't need to get dragged, but no, Trevor Lawrence has done it a little bit, but we've also seen him in big spots not play well. And with Justin Herbert, I think he's been in one playoff game and was gifted 5 turnovers and still couldn't manage to pull that out. I understand that it's still Brandon Staley too, but you've got to make plays. You've got to be able to get your team. Like, you can't be gifted that many turnovers and lose a game. That's one. And two, his rookie season, it's pretty much statistically his best season. Like, he hasn't, like, since his rookie year, he hasn't increased.
Year 2 was pretty good.
So it's
year 2 was pretty close to year 1.
Like, his year, but here's the thing. His years are always been good. It's like nothing about him being bad. Like, his year 1 to year 2 to year 3 have all been really good. They just haven't really gotten too much better. He played a little bit more games, so he got more yards because he didn't obviously play. I think he missed the first game and a half or two games, one game, whatever it was, before they decided to throw a knife into Tyrod Taylor's lung. But he was 31-10 his first year, and then he played a little bit more, was 38-15. Then the next year was 25-10. Quarterback rating went from 98 to 97 to 93 to 93. So his quarterback rating was best in his rookie year than it ever has been. So it's like, not that he's been really good. He just hasn't gotten better. And so what I've seen from CJ and Jordan Love is I've seen those great flashes that you've seen from Herbert, but they also have the added potential there to it. That's why Herbert's not there, but Herbert after the season easily could put himself there because he's that talented. It's just also there too, and it could be coaching.
I was going to say, wouldn't you say
Coaching
there's a
could be a big
difference
part of
between
that, too.
D'Amico Ryans and Matt LaFleur and Brandon Staley?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And here's the thing. We don't know if that's fully the case. We assume that's the case, but we don't know.
I don't know.
It's not. Nothing's 100% guaranteed. So what if he's not good in 2 years with Jim Harbaugh? Does that
That's
mean
the thing. I think
it's coaching now? Because we know
that's my thing would be, I think he has been really good. But, I mean, when you got –
well, no, I'm saying even better. He's been really good, but I have him there in that spot because I think the quarterbacks around him have also been really good. Jalen Hurts has been really good for a time.
Sure.
Dak Prescott has been really good. Jared Goff, Brock
sure.
Purdy. He was all within that crop of
For
people.
sure. No, I agree. I get what you're saying. I just think, like, when you take Herbert next to someone like Hurts doesn't necessarily have all the tools that Herbert has as a quarterback as far as being able to read a defense, arm strength, or, like we say with Caleb, like the throws you just can't account for in the scouting report. Herbert has that. So I'm just surprised that he's not in that tier for you, given what his head coach situation was. Because I think Brandon Staley is like Nat Hackett, whatever the fuck his name is. I think he's that level of, of a head coach. He's just a terrible head coach.